Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Health with Dr. Yvette Masaka. This is a podcast that aims to correct myths around health. And today we're going to be talking about something that affects a lot of us, and this is hypertension. And I'm joined by Dr. Elipilias Chiwaya, who is also my friend, and I'm going to allow him to introduce himself. So thank you for being here, Dr. Chiwaya.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yvette. I'm really happy to be here on your podcast.
Finally.
And yes, and interact with the amazing viewers and listeners out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always important to just have these conversations.
Yes, it's very important. So who is Dr. Elipilias Chiwaya?
Okay, Dr. Elpilias Chivoya is first and foremost a medical doctor by profession, a public health and preventive health care advocate, and I am the founder and current executive director of Save the Pulse Initiative Africa, a non-government organization that is focused on championing the fight against hypertension in Zambia and across Africa. And personally, we've been doing a lot of work in the line with hypertension and just health promotion activities. And also, I am currently working with Zambia National Public Health Institute as a national coordinator for 717 project in Zambia. And aside that, I am also a Christian. Yeah.
I thought you were about to say a father,
And,
a husband.
Not yet. Soon.
Yes. That's good to know. So that's quite the portfolio you have, eh? Because I don't think I would have managed to get all that. So what led you to starting up the Save the Pulse initiative?
So, it came out of realization. I have a background of my parents and also my late uncle who passed on from complications of hypertension.
I see.
Yeah, so when I was young, we never knew anything about it. But in my secondary school, when we were just finishing, my uncle passed on because of dysfunctioning liver, and also the heart started failing because of unmanaged hypertension. So prior to that, it's these things you just see, and then you don't understand what is happening, and then you're like, you really feel so helpless. It's one of those things that actually went on to motivate me to pursue medicine as a career. But as I grew up, I got to now understand, these are the things that were happening at that particular time. But fast forward, I had an experience with National Heart Hospital. I worked there for about 8 months. In my time there, I did interact with a number of patients. As I was volunteering there, I did interact with these patients who were coming in. You find that they're coming in with very terminal illnesses, which are heart failure, kidney problems. You find that they have stroke, they have heart attacks. And then you find that most of these people are coming with these end organ damages
Because of hypertension.
because of underlying hypertension that was there years before. They either knew it, they were never on treatment, or they were on treatment, but they were just taking it when they feel like taking.
Yeah.
So I realized to say, how best can we go back in time? Can we go back in time to ensure that if we went maybe 5 years before these people came here, we wouldn't have them in this situation.
Yeah.
So it really motivated me to say, how best can we just do something about this problem? Because it is very preventable. It is something that is very manageable. And like other diseases, it's not a death sentence. You're assured of somebody living long with hypertension if they understand some of these small things that they need to just modify about their lives.
Yeah.
So that's where the motivation came from. As I was doing that, I realized to say there are so many other people out there who are as equally passionate about hypertension and championing the fight against hypertension, just like I do. I thought to say, why not come up with a team of people who are motivated to champion this fight and actually help others build confidence in championing this hypertension? Because just alone, you can just reach a few, but with numbers, we're assured to say we can make a difference at a larger scale. So that's how we came up with Save the Pulse Initiative Africa. and here we are.
Yeah, it's a very good initiative. So for people there listening to us, what is hypertension?
So, hypertension, I like to just be as simple as possible so that the people out there will move on the same page. Hypertension basically is a raised and sustained increased blood pressure. You see, somebody having a blood pressure that is above what the blood vessels can handle. So if that blood pressure is high and that high pressure is sustained for some time without being controlled, it now causes the damage to the blood vessels. It now begins triggering remodeling effect on the blood vessel. So those remodeling effects, they begin narrowing and stiffening of the blood vessels. You find that certain blood vessels that are very small and that do not have enough capacity to hold that pressure, they even rupture. So you find that increased blood pressure is what we refer to as hypertension in general.
Yeah. For me, I like to think of it as water going through a hose pipe.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So if the pressure that if the pressure what am I trying to say?
Yeah.
The pressure that the water is exerting on the walls of the hose pipe is what we're calling the blood pressure. So
Yes.
that's the pressure that the blood itself is exerting on the blood vessels. So because of that pressure, it's like when you have rainwater flowing through the soil, you actually see it leaving marks. So I always imagine that the blood rushing through your veins is leaving those marks
Yeah.
on your blood vessels, and those are like sores, and then those sores start healing by forming scars, because naturally a blood vessel is supposed to expand, contract, expand, contract, but when it starts forming those scars, it loses the ability to expand, contract, and then those same scars is where now the bad cholesterol will start forming and all those. But anyway, we'll get into that.
I like the simplicity you've really brought out there. It's quite it's quite interesting to just see how this whole thing comes about. That's why it's very important to just know where we stand.
Yeah, it is. So, what are things that put someone at risk of getting hypertension?
Okay, there are quite a number of things. There are quite a number of things that put somebody at risk. I'll begin with some. We can categorize to say some modifiable risk factors and non-modifiable risk factors. So on maybe for a start, I'll talk maybe about some non-modifiable. You have genetic predisposition. You see,
Which you can't change.
yeah, you can't change. You cannot do so much about it. Maybe in your family you have a history of hypertension, and then genetically you inherit certain genes, and then it predisposes you. It's not a must that if in your family there's somebody who has hypertension, you also develop it.
Yeah, but
Yes, but it comes in with all these other factors we're going to talk about. So we have family history. We also have maybe we have primary and secondary hypertension.
yeah,
You see, the primary hypertension, I think, just to give some insight on these two, is where it is hypertension that is coming from very unknown causes.
yeah,
But secondary, there's already an underlying condition that is now causing that blood pressure to rise.
yeah,
So you find that maybe you cannot stop that blood pressure unless there's that cause is gotten rid of, and then you have that. When we talk about modifiable risk factors, these are quite many. You find that you have diet coming in very, very much into our discussion. I think we'll shed more light as we go on.
yeah,
We have smoking. Smoking is, when they say stop smoking, It's non-negotiable. Smoking is a very huge
I
risk
like that.
factor.
It's non-negotiable.
Yeah, it's non-negotiable.
And it's become a problem now.
Yeah, yeah.
This shisha that people like,
Mm.
you know, people are assuming because they're taking shisha and not smoking. I mean, shisha is tobacco, so you're smoking. And I had Dr. Blessings a few episodes ago, and he said that one bout of shisha is equal to 100 cigarettes.
You see, it's serious, very serious, and I think it's the flavor that deceives people, thinking it's less harmful. And it's really sad that instead of having the youths fighting this cage, but they are being deceived equally in that direction to think it's fun,
It's cool.
it's cool. Yeah, but it's one of the very huge leading very very huge risk factor when it comes to hypertension, because it has got a very direct impact on the blood vessels. Yeah, very direct impact on the blood vessels. There are other risk factors that can have a mechanism that before it impacts your health, but for smoking, it's that direct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we're getting to see a lot of young people with hypertension. Before that, we would see it in elderly people as you grow. But now you find that we have 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds who are developing this hypertension quite early, and it's because of this lifestyle that we're talking about. And I mean, there are other conditions that predispose you, yes, but right now I'm talking about the primary hypertension, where you have no known cause, and it actually caters for 90% of the hypertension. Like the people with hypertension, 90% of them actually don't have an underlying cause, but it's mostly due to these risk factors, as you said, genetics, and yeah,
Yeah.
and lifestyle.
Yeah, that's so true. So with smoking discussed, I think we can also go to the factor of alcohol. Yeah,
Another one.
yes, increased alcohol intake is a very huge factor. Some studies do recommend, just that it's very difficult to quantify alcohol because it differs with percentages. Say for a lady, a minimum of at least one drink. They tell me to say one drink a day.
What?
Yes, one drink a day, you see. And then for a gentleman, they say 2 drinks a day and stuff. I don't understand.
What is 2 drinks?
This
Is it two bottles of whiskey?
because somebody will take say I just had one drink, and
one
then
drink, a
it's the whole
huge cup.
bottle.
Yeah.
But alcohol is a very also huge risk factor to hypertension. Yeah, so we also have sedentary lifestyle.
Yeah.
Sedentary lifestyle is a very huge factor. Increased body weight, it also becomes in as a very huge risk factor. We also have stress. Stress is a very big factor, and managed stress can easily predispose you to hypertension. Yeah, so these are some of the risk factors that are there, and they vary in impact. But I just need to make mention that as it stands now, in Africa and in blacks, the biggest risk factor that has been known by the recent hypertension global report on hypertension released by WHO in September last year, it details to say one of the leading risk factors of hypertension in Africa and in the black population is increased sodium intake.
Salt.
You see, increased sodium intake in our population, and also things to do with also overweight. You see, overweight is also a very big risk factor. So as it stands now, there are so many strides that are being made in how can we address the increased sodium intake, also the trans fat aspect of our diet, because some industries, there are some there's some artificially made trans fats to just put to the food so that foods taste a certain way. So these factors are very huge, and So various strides under WHO and under other various organizations have come in to say, how can we reduce this aspect of health?
There's a country, is it France? I stand to be corrected. So they've asked the manufacturers and the restaurant owners to reduce the caloric value of the food because they're having an obesity crisis. So they've told them not to go beyond a certain caloric intake. And they've said if they do not adhere to this, it's actually going to be in the constitution. So it will eventually become illegal to have high caloric foods on the market. Do you think that's a good move?
For me, it's a very brilliant move. And, you know, when that begins happening, it is people and it's people regaining their health back, like regaining control over their health. Because as it stands now, Dr. Yvette, it's like medical personnel and the health sector has let go of their grip on controlling health. It is now in the hands of the businessmen. It's the businessman that controls what we eat, ultimately controls what is the content of what we eat. So if we do not come up with measures that can somehow mitigate how these things are being packaged, how these things are being brought out in the markets, it's going to be too late. Because as it stands, the business world knows how to get the customer coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I know to say, oh, Dr. Yvette loves sweet stuff, I'll keep adding sweet things to my foods because I know you come back and buy more. At the end of the day, we are losing a population and we're just driving right in the hands of the NCDs. If we're not careful, you'll find that statistics are going to be so huge such that it will become, I think I would tell it it's a global pandemic when it comes to these NCDs, hypertension, diabetes, and the like. So if we do not gain control over our foods, we need to give up on the fight. Somehow. We indirect giving up on the fight against hypertension. Yeah. So I really applaud that such moves, and I feel as Zambia and Africans, we need to adopt some of these things. I personally do advocate that we regulate how much salt our industries put in our foods.
I've seen that. But there's something about, I don't know, there's something about chefs, maybe in Zambia, if it's just me, it's like salt is, I don't know if salt makes food tastier. I don't know, because I'm always complaining about how much salt they add to the food. But also you find that maybe it's not them. They've added a reasonable amount of salt, but you find that the spices they're using also have some salt to them. So now they've put the table salt and then they're adding spices which have salt to them, and at the end of the day increasing your salt intake as well. So you find that when I'm cooking, I'm using spices. I don't add salt. I'll use the spice because I know that the spice already has enough salt. Then you also find these foods that we have on the market, the savory ones. I think I watched you talking about these packaged foods like crisps. Those foods, to say that they actually contain a lot of salt. Yeah. So I think maybe something should be done about regulating the amount of salt that's actually put in these packaged foods as well. Yeah,
you are right. And you know, when it comes to salt and how we eat salt, it's more of cultural. Depending on the culture and how people have tolerated a certain level of salt, you find that a certain community or maybe households, you find that they eat more salt. Even the people who come, the children who are growing in such household. So before you know it can be a culture. So when it comes to like Africans, we really love salt. Yeah. As Africans, we love salt, and we eat a lot of salt. But when it comes to genetically, I think I need to just bring this out as we before we move. Genetically, it has been shown in research that black people handle salt poorly at the kidney level, handle salt poorly compared to other races. So there is now what is now being called salt-sensitive hypertension. You see, so you find that salt-sensitive hypertension. This is a hypertension that responds to salt. So we retain more salt. We retain more salt than other races genetically. We retain more salt. So you find that reducing the salt intake of an individual has got an impact on the blood pressure coming down, and increased sodium intake as that impacts to do the increase in on the other end. So that's why the fight and championing against hypertension in the black population, we can't really talk about it without addressing that aspect of salt. Because if we keep a blind eye on it, it's like you are trying to treat people who are living with hypertension, but the factors that are leading to its increase are still on the eye. So it's work done equal to zero. Yeah. So when we talk about the increase in the foods that are on the market, it's quite high. You find that the most common misconception which the public have is only things that taste salty have got high salt content, which is totally false. Because most of the foods we find on the market, they have got very high salt content, sodium content, but they have got these other sweeteners which mask that sodium content. So you find that it's not tasting so salty, but it has got high sodium intake, high sodium content. So you find most of these foods, if you take time to just read, it is quite alarming. It is quite alarming of the situation that we have right now. And we need to do something. Yeah.
Do we have a quantity, like how much salt should one take in a day?
So in a day, according to WHO recommendations, an individual is supposed to take not more than 2,500 milligrams of sodium.
2,500.
So this is like a normal individual. But for somebody who is already hypertensive, making sure it is as low, below at least 1,500 milligrams. Excuse me. So this, when you look at this 2,500 milligrams, how can we quantify it to a layman person? This is sodium component, because salt is composed of sodium and chloride, and also some other minor elements that like potassium, magnesium, and the like. So for salt, if you are quantifying it in terms of salt in general, we're talking about 5 grams of salt. 5 grams of salt. So these 5 grams of salt is containing about 2,300 milligrams of sodium. So what is the equivalent quantity in layman to somebody who is cooking out there, or to somebody who can measure? It is the small teaspoon. That small teaspoon. Yes, I think it's something like this. You see? This is the maximum an individual is supposed to take.
For the whole day?
For the whole day. You see? This is the maximum an individual is supposed to take for the whole day. So now, when you look at this maximum, we're not talking about that what you have put on the food. No. We're talking about everything that was contained in your breakfast, everything that was contained in that biscuit you eat, everything that was contained in that water. Actually, you know that even water has got the certain sodium.
Yeah.
No wonder it's called the mineral water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has minerals.
Yeah. So you find that is an amount that is being quantifying for the public to know, say, this is the maximum amount of salt. So you realize that over actually 70% of the sodium intake that we take comes from already processed foods, already made foods,
which we can't really quantify.
So when we come to the table, that is the only time we have to regulate. And then you find that now people put like it's their last supper, you see. Yeah, so it is quite serious. And even as we look at what we're putting on the foods on our tables, we also need to look at the things that we're buying. We need to be very observant. So these are some of the things that we really are advocating for. How can we get people informed? How can we get the industries to label on their products if it is a high salt content or low sodium content, so that people are informed? Because you find that hypertensive patients, they don't know.
Yeah.
They will just buy because they don't. But if you have something labeled, they are informed, and they'll make proper decisions for their own health.
Yeah. But in Zambia, we also have a very poor reading culture. How many of us really read ingredients? I mean,
Yeah.
there are very few times that I've seen people picking up something and actually looking on the back of it to read. We don't.
Yeah.
We don't. If you ask someone what the salt content is in probably a snack they like, they don't know. They just like how it tastes. So I think we need to improve on that. We need to be aware of how much salt, how much calories we're actually taking in, because that's information that's always provided on the packaging. The manufacturers have to give us that information, although they write very, very small things
Yeah.
which you can barely read. But we should start taking note of how much salt we are taking. Yeah, because I think everyone has someone they know who is hypertensive.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And I think maybe it's like the smallest things that are written on the product. So if we can get these things, advocate that we have something much bigger labeled, more especially when it comes to sodium. Yeah. To say this is high sodium content product, this is low
This is
sodium.
not. Yeah.
The public will at least have that informed. But even before that, as an individual who is trying to prevent becoming hypertensive, I need to take interest.
Yeah, you do.
There are certain things like crisps, biscuits, certain things like burgers. You find that they have very high sodium content. Just eating, personally, I do take very keen interest to read almost some of these foods. You'll be shocked to find that just one biscuit, actually, the content of sodium that is contained in such just one biscuit, you find that it is the maximum an individual is supposed to take in a day. And before they know it, they have taken more than one.
Yeah.
More than one in a day. That is in addition to the foods that they are going to eat, and actually the salt they're going to add on their own foods. Yeah. So it's
really
quite concerning. Yeah.
What are the complications? I know you did mention the kidneys and the liver being affected in hypertension. What are the common complications of hypertension apart from those?
Okay. So before maybe I talk about the complications, somebody out there would ask to say, how can I know that I have hypertension?
Okay.
Yeah. Before maybe I even maybe looks out for the complications. Dr. Yvette, I'm sure you'd agree with me, having attended to a lot of patients. You realize to say most of the patients that you get to see, they barely come with any symptoms.
Yeah, they barely.
It's so silent. No wonder it's referred to as the silent killer.
Yes.
Because among the commonest symptom, I always refer to say the commonest symptom of hypertension is no symptom at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because by the time you're getting symptoms, it means damage has been done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It means damage has been done, and most people look for the symptoms, while in the actual sense they are not actually symptoms, they are complications of hypertension. Yeah. So what are some of these things? To begin with, I would like just to give an example. I did mention something to say how just the physiology, how hypertension can cause these end organ damages. You look at increased blood pressure. So this blood pressure, for some time, you can, as it increases, because of so many these factors we spoke about, it increases. The blood vessel is made in such a way that it's going to accommodate a certain pressure. Once that pressure increases, it is going to see how can I build more capacity to contain this pressure. So as it is trying to build more capacity, it's trying to thicken so it doesn't rupture or it maybe handles that pressure. As it is trying to do that, it is now becoming big and narrowing the space
And becoming stiff also.
and becoming stiff. So something that was elastic becomes now stiff. It's no longer elastic.
Yeah.
So which means that pressure, instead of it being handled, it no longer can't elasticate. It now begins becoming big. That is in some like these maybe strong organs, like maybe the legs, the arms and stuff. But now when you go to very small, very vital organs, like the eyes, like the heart, like the brain,
the
like the
kidneys,
kidneys, the
yeah.
liver, you see, these are organs which survive on very, very small blood vessels that are supplying these organs. So which means if the same pressure now is being exerted at those organs, it is rupturing because it can't maybe build that mass, it can't build that muscle, and it can't remodel to the same extent these other blood vessels are doing. So which means those end organ damages with the very small blood vessels, they begin rupturing. To the brain, you find that we have hemorrhagic stroke. You see, you find that the blood vessels rupture and somebody has a stroke. The common referred to as stroke. So stroke, the leading preventable cause of strokes
Yes.
globally is hypertension.
Yes.
So which means if we can address the issue of hypertension, we can reduce the numbers of stroke patients we're recording globally and in the country. So stroke is one of the complications. But before even those things begin happening, this is a pressure that the body could have tried to maintain for quite a long time when somebody never knew anything. And then the stroke come in. You talk about the eyes. You find that somebody, the rupture begin happening, somebody has visual problems, having difficulties seeing, and
You
even
can
the
even become blind.
they even become blind. You find that somebody is having headache here and there. So those are some of the things. You talk about the heart. So the heart, we're talking about one heart attack. You see, so as the blood vessels begin like thickening, the calories begin they begin narrowing. You find that blood cannot now cannot be supplied to the very important parts of the heart, and then going into heart attack. Another aspect of the heart is heart failure. So this is quite interesting because, and it's very, very sad to see just how this comes up to develop. The heart failure. This is a person who has been having this sustained blood pressure. The heart begins now building mass, trying to say, oh, this pressure, how can we handle it? Because we need to pump it so to contain this pressure, the heart has to build more mass so that it contains this pressure. So as it is building more mass, one, it is trying to help the situation, but at the expense of actually now causing a much bigger situation. So it now leads to reduction of the space where the blood has to sit in your heart and then pumps to the rest of the body. The more the space is being reduced, the higher the blood pressure is increasing because it has to be pumped out and the like. But as it begins building mass, with time now it begins failing. It no longer now can't contain or handle that pressure. Now this is why you see now people developing the edema, the legs swelling, the abdomen swelling, because the heart now can't pump. So fluids are now being retained on the peripheries of the body. So heart failure is something that is very common in somebody who has kept it for so long without having maintained the blood pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it also causes in as much as you're building, initially you'll be building muscle, yes, the walls are, the heart is thickening, trying to handle those pressures, but eventually it also starts becoming bigger.
Yes.
Remember, you have what we call dilated cardiomyopathy, where now your heart chambers become bigger, but they do not contract efficiently.
Yeah.
So that's also another cause of the heart failure, because your heart has become big, but it's become very inefficient. It can't pump out. So you find that there's blood that's being, it's congesting in the heart, which can also lead to you forming an emboli. A blood clot.
Yeah.
You can form a blood clot or a thrombus, which eventually your heart can pump out, and that clot can end up going to your lungs and causing a blockage in the lungs, causing something we call pulmonary embolism, because when that thrombus leaves the heart, it becomes an emboli. Or that same clot can end up going to your brain and blocking one of the vessels in the brain, causing a stroke. So hypertension really is a major cause of stroke, things like pulmonary embolism as well.
Yeah.
Just thought of adding that.
Yeah. No, it's quite true. And
Yeah.
before that happens, it's a blood pressure that has been high for quite some time.
Yes.
That's why it's very preventable. Yeah. No wonder, there's a time, I just need to remind you, in when we were in med school, we used to have the community-based education.
Yes.
My team, your team went to, is it Livingstone?
It was Siavonga.
Siavonga, yes.
Yes.
We went to Monze. So we went in the deep villages of Monze and just within town, just measuring people's blood pressure, the glucose and the glucose levels. So there's this particular instance which we came across with. We met this family, not just one, but it's something that I really was quite surprising. This lady never wanted to check the blood pressure. She said, no, what about ngati mwanipeza na BP? My husband is going to leave me. Is it
that deep?
Yeah. So no, please. I mean, ngati, because I've woken up, I can't check my BP. My BP sometimes shoots, so can't check it. So after interacting, we came to realize that this woman never wanted to check the BP because
she knew.
Because she feels, if I know the blood pressure and banipeza and a BP, my husband is going to leave me. So I was quite shocked that a person would rather live in ignorance of their blood pressure status at the expense of them knowing and taking care of their health.
What you don't know won't hurt you.
Yeah, it's a very common statement. Yeah, to say, if I don't know, it won't hurt me. But in the actual sense is, when it hurts you, it will be too late to do anything about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because people drop dead.
Yeah.
Just you have a rupture where you're not supposed to have one.
Yeah.
You just drop dead. And the other thing that this hypertension will cause in the heart is, remember, in as much as the heart is supplying the entire body, the heart itself has blood supply.
Yeah.
So we have this, I really don't like saying this word, atherosclerosis. Yeah. Yes. So you have narrowing of the blood vessels because of accumulation of, I'll call it fat, usually bad cholesterol. So you have narrowing of these vessels, which could actually lead to you having a myocardial infarction. So when you have a myocardial infarction, one of the blood vessels to the heart will get blocked, because if you have that plaque collecting in the blood vessel, it will eventually lead to narrowing of the blood vessel, and you won't be able to supply a portion of the heart. Now, when that portion of the heart starts dying, that's what we're calling a myocardial infarction. And when that happens, that area will not be contracting, will not be working as it should, meaning your heart will not be efficient. So that goes back to diet as well, because the more bad cholesterol you're taking, the more fatty foods you're taking, the more plaque you're going to be having in your arteries.
Yeah. And I find that most of like the heart attacks, you find somebody just drops dead. People go on to accuse all kinds of old people within the neighborhood to say they have killed this person. One in the actual sense, maybe this person had hypertension. This person had a preventable and manageable condition. They never knew, because they thought what they don't know can't hurt them. But once it hurts them, you find that they'll come up with so many reasons, so many things they think contributed to this. That's why it is very important. Very important. I know you've been a very strong advocate for people to regularly check their health status, how they just need to regularly monitor some of these things. It is very important for somebody to check their blood pressure. Just know it's something that can take less than 2 minutes to just check your blood pressure. You know it, that's good. You begin managing it. We personally have a slogan to say, hypertension is a silent killer. Take action now. Take action now. If you do not have hypertension, you still have you still can take action now. If you have hypertension, you can take action now to prevent the complications. So it's a two-way thing. When it comes to hypertension, we're not just dealing actually with the people already hypertensive. We're dealing with the people who do not have hypertension, because they can take action now, prevent hypertension. If you have hypertension, you can take action now, prevent the complications of hypertension. Yeah.
And if you have complications, you take action to prevent death.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's just how it is.
So that's quite true.
Speaking about the measuring, what should people know about the measurements? I know that, okay, as a healthcare worker, I know that we measure. It's one of the routine things that we do when you come to the hospital. So we measure your blood pressure, and usually, I'm sure you hear us throwing around, the BP is maybe 125/75 or something like that. So 125, the number that's on top, that's the blood pressure at its maximum. So when your heart contracts, when the heart contracts, that's the blood pressure that's on top. That's a 125. Then when your heart is relaxed, that's the number at the bottom. That's the blood pressure at its lowest. That's when your heart is relaxing. So that's why we have those two figures. And usually if your blood pressure is above 140, like the top number, that's what we call the systolic. If it's above 140, we start worrying. And for the diastolic, which is when your heart is relaxed, when it's above 90, we also start getting worried. So apart from that, what else do people need to know about BP measurements?
I think it's what they just need to know is it's not always that once they check their blood pressure, they find it's high, that ultimately they are hypertensive. Yeah. So no wonder even at the hospital, we measure at least 3 BP measurements spaced out to just ascertain, to say, is this maybe just an instance, or is it also just maybe 40 on the machine? So 3 at least measurements, and then you get the average is something that is recommended. So just measuring once doesn't mean no. For me, it is
that's it.
I
have BP.
I have BP. Yeah. And we also have what is called the lab coat.
Yes.
And I think you can talk about
this. The white coat.
The white coat, yeah.
blood pressure or hypertension, where
Yeah.
and I saw this especially in pregnant women.
Oh, okay.
For me, it was more common in obs and gyn. So you find a woman comes to the hospital. This is a non-hypertensive woman. So you've told the woman to check their blood pressures at home. Maybe you give them a week and say, check your blood pressure every day, like maybe in the morning and evening. Most of them have BP machines. So they check their blood pressures and they write them down. But the moment they come to the hospital, they see you, the doctor, and you take their blood pressure. The blood pressure is just like off the charts. And they're like, no, but look at the blood pressures at home. These blood pressures are normal. Why is it that every time I come to the hospital, my blood pressure goes up? So most of them, I think it's because they come with the fear of being admitted. That's what I think. I think it's just like fear of being admitted. So you have your body going into this fight mode and increasing your blood pressure because of that fear. So I think that's what it is.
Yeah. So that is also one thing. So there are so many, like you mentioned, you give patients to say they need to check even their blood pressure while at home when they are relaxed.
Yeah.
And it can help track. But one thing I also need to caution, sometimes you find that patients want to write things just to impress the doctor.
Yeah.
Well, in the actual
that's a
sense, it
problem.
is for their health,
Yeah.
To say, okay, no, I'll just write figures. Well, they maybe
They write
never
the
took.
normal ones.
Yes, you write the normal ones. But at the end of the day, we do this so that it can help us know, is this person responding well to this treatment?
Yeah.
Should we change treatment? Should we add more drugs? Because there could be multiple therapies
Yeah.
that can be of help in managing that blood pressure. That's why when it comes to health, it's no wonder in medicine we believe in telling the truth, because it's only the truth that will set you free. It is only the truth that can keep you safe. To say, okay, this is what we have. Oh, this is how you are doing. This is what we can do for you. This is what can help you.
Yeah. But
And
also,
you need to stop this. Whether you love it, you don't love it, we know to say it can help you. We'll tell it as it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also, we need to be objective as healthcare personnel because of that reason. So someone will come with figures that they've written down that will impress you to say, oh, wow, your BP is really controlled at home. But for me, if your blood pressure is high in the hospital, I'll take it your blood pressure is high even at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not taking any chances. The oath that we take as doctors, the first one we say is do no harm. Right? So whenever I'm attending to a patient, that should be the first thing that I think of, like what will not cause harm to the patient. And when you come with your high blood pressure, for me to actually allow you home, your blood pressure needs to be acceptable.
Yeah.
Before I allow you home, whether your blood pressure was okay at home, as long as when I'm seeing you it's not okay, I'm not comfortable letting you go, because I don't know if those blood pressures are actually true.
Yeah.
Or not.
Just like you have said, I like the statement you said, you wouldn't like to take chances. It's very important. It's better to respond to a false alarm than not respond to
An alarm.
an alarm. It's
Yeah.
because you say, oh no, maybe at the end somebody maybe goes on to develop these complications. So
Yeah.
it's always important to be cautious, to just take those precautions and take the measures.
Yes. And speaking of blood pressure machines, so I'm running a little contest on Facebook. It's called Stay Healthy with Dr. Yvette. Win yourself a BP machine. All you have to do is just watch any video on YouTube and subscribe to the channel, like the page on Facebook, and just comment on the contest post. Just comment any tip that you've learned. And the tip with the most likes wins the BP machine. So I know for most people it's not a very exciting prize, but for someone who's hypertensive, it may help you actually know your blood pressure at home. Because I hear some people saying that I only take medication nikamvelat yakwela.
Yeah,
Like how do you velat yakwela BP?
yeah.
It doesn't work like that with
Yeah.
BP. You can't velat yakwela. And by the time you're feeling that your BP is high, then really it's off the
It's
charts.
very late.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very late.
So
I hope people really take it's a very good price, and BP machines are quite expensive out there.
yeah.
And
But no, the response has been quite poor with the contest. Maybe it's not a very exciting prize, but it's a healthy prize.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. So we are actually planning to do a May measurement month. This is like a month dedicated towards just hypertension awareness.
Yeah.
So if the people are not willing to take the prize, I'll participate in the prize and win it myself.
Please
Because
participate.
we need to use these machines. Just there, people are really in need of these machines, and having it is a very important thing for your
Yeah.
health. Yeah.
So the next thing I would like to talk about is medication. So, one of my aunts was diagnosed with hypertension, and she asked me, Yvette, how long am I taking this medication? So can I stop the medication when my BP goes to normal? So I told her, no, you continue taking the blood pressure medications lifelong.
Yeah.
You don't stop taking them. And her reaction was like, like, really?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes. So I'll take them like ARVs.
Yeah. So it's a very common response.
Yeah. So I was like, yes. And unfortunately, you have to take them lifelong. Well, in an instance where you have secondary hypertension, and for example, you have maybe some kidney disease or something, maybe that's rectified. In that case, I think you can stop taking the BP medication, because what was causing your blood pressure has been rectified. But if it's primary hypertension, where we don't know what's causing your blood pressure to be high, usually the medication is lifelong. And I want to talk about the common medications that we use, especially in our setting. So in our setting, the most common is a group called calcium channel blockers. So calcium is important for contracting of the heart and contracting of the blood vessels. So what calcium channel blockers do is that they prevent calcium from going into the cell, meaning they're preventing contraction of the blood vessels and of the heart. Because when your blood vessels are smaller, meaning there's more pressure, it's just like having, when you have a small hose pipe, a smaller hose pipe will give you higher pressure than a bigger hose pipe. So when the diameter is big, water flows out slowly. But when it's small, you have a higher pressure. So the calcium channel blockers will help dilate the blood vessels, hence reducing the pressure exerted on the walls of the blood vessel. So the most common in our setting is nifedipine.
Yeah.
Yes, nifedipine and amlodipine. So those are calcium channel blockers, and that's how they work. The other common ones that we use are called beta blockers. So beta blockers will lower your heart rate. By that, they're also lowering your blood pressure. So common beta blockers are things like labetalol, atenolol, propranolol, carvedilol. Yes, Then the other group that I want to talk about is what we call ACE inhibitors, which is angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors, which prevent this enzyme from forming this angiotensin. So angiotensin will have an effect on the blood vessels of the body, and it causes narrowing. So by preventing the formation of angiotensin, you're preventing the narrowing of blood vessels. So the common one that we use is enalapril. Then we have diuretics. So diuretics are used to, they increase the excretion of water and sodium by the kidneys. So by doing that, you're also reducing the blood pressure. And the common ones are furosemide or Lasix, as people call them. Then you have thiazides like hydrochlorothiazide. Yes. Then the other group that I would like to talk about is angiotensin receptor inhibitors. Yeah, angiotensin 2 receptor inhibitors. So these ones are also preventing the effect of angiotensin on the blood vessels. So angiotensin causes narrowing. If you don't have angiotensin acting on the blood vessel, you won't have the narrowing. So the common one in this group is what's it called again? Telmisartan. So those people who are taking Telma H. So Telma H is a combination of telmisartan and hydrochlorothiazide. So you're taking a combination of a diuretic and an angiotensin 2 receptor blocker. Yeah. Then the other one, I think those are the main ones. Yeah. So those are the main groups. So some people just take diuretics, and I know some people take what is called modiuretic, which is also another combination. So these are the common drugs in our setting, and depending on how you respond, we usually give them in combination. But Africans, we tend to respond well to calcium channel blockers like nifedipine and amlodipine. So we usually start with those, and we add something on like enalapril and other things like beta blockers and come in.
Yeah.
Thank
you so much for highlighting the drugs.
The drugs.
I wanted to just make a comment. When you talk about the types of drugs that we usually use in our facilities, I think we should take an opportunity to just maybe speak to somebody out there, because there's this notion out there that I can pick whichever. For example, Dr. Yvette, you prescribe to a patient to say, I'm going to put you on a calcium channel blocker, maybe nifedipine. You're going to also we're going to also give you a beta blocker, maybe 2 or 3 drugs, a multiple therapy. And then somebody just say, okay, I'll just be taking nifedipine. These others I will not be taking them. Or tomorrow I'll take this, and then the other day I'll just take the other one, you see. So it is very important to understand that if you are put on treatment, multiple therapies, maybe 2, 3, or even more, in a case, make sure you're consistent with those drugs,
because they're acting on different
parts. So it's not up to you to reschedule or rearrange your your medications, because at the end of the day, you're just putting yourself at risk. If you've been put on one drug to say, okay, you'll be taking nifedipine, be consistent with that. How consistent you're going to be, for example, if you are on 3 drugs, you have been consistent, your blood pressure begins coming down, you've maintained it well. As a doctor, we can now say, okay, let's reduce this person to only 2 drugs to see if it's going to be maintained. But it is very important to understand that your BP medications have a very they are going to be very impactful if you make sure your lifestyle modifications is primary, is primary to anything that you're doing with the medications, because you just not be helping yourself leaning on the medications, but your alcohol is here, your smoking is there, your salt intake is here.
You're not
Like,
exercising.
you are not exercising, your stress levels are so high. You find that you're not really helping yourself, and just you find that no, maybe mankwala ya kuchipatala yafirwa muti naofirwa kubomba. It's not that the medicine is failing. Have you taken a look at also your lifestyle modification? Have you taken a look at your diet? Because before even maybe go to the drugs putting you on treatment, we have to make sure how can modifying your diet regulate your blood pressure. If regulating your diet has failed, that's when now we move to the second line of treatment, which is now our drugs.
Yeah.
That are being helpful in this way.
Yeah.
But it's very important. Most people would, it's sometimes people want, there's a very the man I really look up to, is he motivates me so much in the health, in the space of cardiovascular health. Dr. Tom Friedman.
Okay.
He there's a statement he said to say, men have been looking for the one miracle pill to say, if I take this pill, it can do all the work. Yeah, most times we want just that one pill that can magically make everything disappear. And he mentioned to say, diet is one thing, like watching the food that we're eating, or that we're eating, is a very important aspect. If we can watch the food, it is that one pill. When it comes to like exercising is the closest pill we can ever get to as human beings. Closer to say, this pill can help me address so many things at once. Exercising. Yeah. So it is something that I personally recommend. I know you've been very keen on keeping health.
Yes.
The last time I interacted with you, you were even doing some boxing.
I still do the boxing.
You still do the boxing?
I do boxing. I play tennis. I'm starting to run again.
You see?
Yeah.
So it's really inspiring, and I think people out there need to make sure, before even talk about these drugs, are you exercising first? It's not easy. It's not easy. But resorting only to the drugs will not be so helpful if you do not address your lifestyle and your exercises, and also just the foods that you're eating. It's very, very important. And it's just a thought that came as we were just going through
the medications.
The medications is understanding that hypertension, these are things that are backed with research, available research.
Yeah.
Hypertension is more severe and harder to treat in the black population than other races. Maybe you can give an example of the white race. This is when I talk about these people who think, no, being a racist. No, these are things that we need to understand.
Yeah.
Because once we understand them, we are going to come up with solutions that are going to speak to our challenges as the black population. You find that in the black population, you need multiple therapies sometimes to control the blood pressure. Other races, maybe just one single therapy. You see, but what and also not just harder to treat, but it is more severe. The complications are more severe in the black population. Personally, when I looked at some of these research findings, it motivated me to say, we need to own this fight. We need to make sure we reach to our people. We need to make sure our people have the necessary tools, information that can help them be safe. More especially, to me, I feel hypertension is like a low-hanging fruit in the public health space. It is something that we can prevent. It is something that we can manage with very little resources invested, more especially in the preventive aspect of health. Yeah. So if you are listening to this, share this video with the people. You might be not hypertensive, but do you know if your parents are hypertensive? Share with them this video.
Yeah,
Let
actually,
it,
you know that 46% of people are living with hypertension and they do not know that they have hypertension.
you see, 46%
46%. That's
of the
almost
people.
half of the
That's almost
population.
half.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as it stands now in Zambia, according to the latest available research, is over 34.8
Yeah.
of the adult population, that is from 18 to like 60, 70, are living with hypertension.
That's also a lot.
34.7% of the adult population. Dr. Yvette, that's a very huge number. That's a
It
very
is.
big number.
So where you're seeing like 10 people, like 4 of them
Yes,
have hypertension.
have hypertension.
That's a huge number.
So when you look at that, you realize to say this is a problem we shouldn't sleep on. If it is in the back seat of our conversations, it really needs to come in the forefront, because so many lives are getting lost. So many breadwinners can be saved. So many health, so many people have labored to build wealth for themselves, to build their families, to build legacies. It's not. It doesn't make sense for such a person to die from something that is preventable, something that is manageable. You see?
And you know, the complications are so bad that at UTH, we have a unit called the stroke unit.
You see?
So we have a unit dedicated to just taking care of stroke people. And the few stroke patients I've seen actually are elderly people that come in and did not know that they had hypertension ever.
Yeah.
They just woke up because a stroke is sudden. So you have this sudden onset paralysis. You have this sudden onset paralysis and they're rushed to the hospital. And now at the hospital, you ask them, was this patient ever hypertensive? And they say no. But when you check their blood pressure, it's like over the roof. And this is because our health-seeking behaviors are so bad that we only come to the hospital when we have complications. So now, speaking of stroke, I've just remembered that we have these signs that you can see when someone is having a stroke. So you have, you notice that there's slanting of the mouth. Usually, there's their speech becomes slurred. Then they have this weakness.
Yeah. Sometimes unilateral.
Yes, there's just
weakness.
one-sided weakness, and you have to rush them to the hospital.
No, it's the fact that we even like just a unit dedicated shows that it's a very big problem.
It is.
And some of these complications, you know, what is so concerning is some of these complications are irreversible. Once they happen, it's very difficult to reverse them to the normal way things used to be. Sometimes because of health care and treatment, yes, we can regain health, but the damage, once it has set in, it is quite costly. Quite costly. So knowing blood pressure, where you stand, regularly checking your blood pressure, it's a very important exercise.
Yeah.
We need to.
So I was just checking. There's a mnemonic for stroke that they use in the stroke unit. It's called B fast. So B is for balance. So sudden loss of balance. So obviously that's attributed to the weakness. And then you have the eyes. So the eyes, there's visual disturbances. Either it becomes blurry. Then there's the face, which is the face drooping to one side. Usually more noticeable on the mouth. You ask the person to smile and you notice that only one side is moving. Then the A is for arm. So you ask the person to like lift their arm, and usually because of the weakness they're actually unable to. And then the S is for speech. um, you ask them to say something, or you just talk to them, and when they respond, you notice that they have slurred speech. In some people, depending on where the stroke hits them, they actually stop talking. Yeah, because that area of the brain is affected. Then there's time. So time in a stroke is of the essence. You have to rush them to the hospital because the more time you take, the more damage
Yeah.
occurs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought I should share that.
Yeah. It's true because
Yeah.
the be fast. I think the earlier the intervention is made, the better, because the more it is sustained without doing anything about it, the more the brain is getting damaged.
Yeah.
So no wonder it's very important. Yeah.
Do you have any last words for everyone?
Okay. For me, I think the last words would be to just re-echo the need for people out there to be concerned of their health. Yeah. There's nothing that is more important in somebody's life than their health. Everything else is secondary. What you have as meaning right now because you have the health,
Yeah.
let it go. Everything else loses meaning. So if there's something you can invest in,
Invest in health.
heavily invest in your health, because it is a foundation on which your mental stability, your other aspects, your achievements, your everything is built. So how concerned are you? The very same way you've invested in your investments, in checking which things are making profits, which academics, which work, have you invested in
Your health.
how your body is doing, checking your body regularly? If you have this, how it can be rectified. Waiting for the calamity to come is not a wisest of decisions,
No, it's
because
not.
it can be very difficult to reverse certain damages, which can be very preventable. Yeah, and it's having programs like this, Dr. Yvette, that the people are being educated there.
Yeah.
And we need to commend you, because somebody out there could be the next a possible next victim of a stroke, possible next victim of a heart failure, possible next victim of kidney problems. But having come across a video like this, discussions like this, they can begin taking these measures. That's why my core and my last word is, if you're watching this video, share with somebody. You won't lose anything, but you can save somebody who is maybe very close to you, who is maybe very dear to you, or just a random stranger who will come across what you shared, and then they are helped in that regard. So those are my last words, Dr.
Thank you so much. I get encouraged when people actually appreciate this podcast. I sometimes I get discouraged. I always feel that, okay, naturally the brain likes things that are easy.
Yeah.
And this podcast is here to educate people. Sometimes entertain, but more of educating people. And I just always feel that people don't like learning. People would rather watch something that's entertaining than watching something that's educative. But I think I've had a very good response, and I'm grateful for everyone who is subscribed to this channel. I think right now I'm standing at around 300 subscribers, and when I compare it to other podcasts, I'm like, okay, it's a small number, but I always imagine having those 300 people, here. I can't even fit them here, so I'm doing it for them. For the 300. Even if I had 50 subscribers, I would still continue doing it, and I will continue doing it. So thank you for the encouragement. Now, speaking of the damage, I've just remembered one crucial thing. This is to the men. So, hypertension damages blood vessels.
Yeah.
Even know where I'm going. Hypertension. I'm like, why are you laughing, Samson? Hypertension damages blood vessels. So for you to maintain, and sustain an erection, you need blood vessels. You need blood going to the machine. So if you don't have blood going to the machine because your blood vessels are damaged, you will not manage to sustain an erection. So if you love your erection, just get yourself checked. Make sure you don't have comorbid conditions like hypertension and diabetes. And also don't forget to subscribe to to this channel.
Yeah.
The more people we have, the bigger the guests get. And thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. So this was Health with Dr. Yvette. Bye.
Bye.